have not been as productive as I'm sure he would have liked, but the Astros saw something in him and think that they can do some work with him. So we'll get to all of that because it is a super busy day. But first, we're just going to start with the Olympics. The Olympics are going on in Paris. And I have a question. If you saw the opening ceremonies, drop it in the chat. I'd love to know what you thought about the opening ceremonies. If you saw it, what your thoughts were about it. Did you understand it? All that kind of stuff. Anyway, so the Texans the Olympics are going on. The USA currently is leading the board in medals with overall medals with 26. Yesterday, the U.S. women's gymnastics team won gold in the all-around competition, and they will have the individual competition finals on Thursday. So gold for women. What is happening? Okay, not really sure about that. Let me. Oh, that's what I want to do. Is show you a picture. Can't show any video, right? Because that is illegal. Not that we have any video. But here is a photo of Simone Biles, right? You got, she has been nothing short of amazing. We already knew how talented Simone Biles is, but she got a little banged up in the competition on, it must have been, maybe it was Sunday. She came down, she injured her calf, was limping off. At one point was kind of crawling to get up to walk, but kept going hard and competing hard. And so the entire team, there's so many great storylines with this team. And it was just exciting to see the way they finished. And congratulations to Simone Biles. Of course, we all know who Simone Biles is, and you can't help but really be excited about what she's done. So the Olympics continues. The women's rugby team won a medal. First time the women's team has ever won a medal. And the men's gymnastics team also won a medal. It is the first time they've medaled since 2008. So a lot of early success. There's still a lot to get to with the Olympics, right? There's more gymnastics. There's been a lot of swimming. We haven't even really gotten into track and field. The basketball team. I mean, it's the Olympics. It's 3 weeks of just, all out competition and international fun. So looking forward to getting more of that. Simone Biles. Hey, good morning, Marsha. Good morning. Yes, she is. Simone Biles is absolutely amazing. So listen, let's talk a little Texans football. And they are getting ready to play their first preseason game tomorrow night in Canton, Ohio. So, in preseason, you don't see a lot of the starters playing because you're really trying to see what the rookies, some of the new players, the young players, see how they play, how they show up in game action, right? It's one thing to see players on the practice field, in the meeting rooms, but it's another to see them. Here, let me let Head Coach DeMeco Ryans tell you what he's looking for. He says every time they hit the field, it's real.
So for the guys who are out there, right, it's important. That's the first thing, and we have to understand that all these guys are vying for a spot, on this team. They're vying for a spot, a chance to play in the NFL and make it. So we don't take it lightly for all the guys to get reps, and we want to make sure our guys are prepared and they're playing their best, right, so they can showcase their talent to the entire league. And we have a lot of young guys who we'll see play in this game, and I'm excited to see them just go play. Right? You work a lot with them in the classroom, making sure they understand the X's and O's. But certain guys, they show up when the lights come on. You may not see it out here at practice all the time. When the lights come on, they just have a good feel for playing the game, and that's what we want to see on Thursday.
So that's what they want to see on Thursday. So listen, if you tune in, it should be fun to watch because you'll get a chance to see some of the new players, but don't expect to see a CJ Stroud. You probably won't see Tank Dell or Nico Collins or Stephon Diggs. this is really for some of the younger players. You'll get a look at, I'm sure, John Mechie III, to see how he is coming along. You'll get a look at, Davis Mills. I'm sure we'll have a lot of time to get in and play. It's his third season. I did an interview with Davis Mills. I'll let you hear a good portion of it on today's show, but you'll get a chance to see some players that may not be starters. And if you see some of the guys on the line that maybe start, like maybe you'll see a Kenyon Green. Don't expect to see much from a Titus Howard. So that's kind of the way preseason goes. They are evaluating. They have until late August to figure out who's going to be on this team, who's going to be on the 53 active roster, who's going to be on the practice squad, and who they're going to have to part ways with. And I guarantee you there are other teams around the league just waiting to see who doesn't make this Texans team, because they have so much talent that somebody not making it here doesn't mean they won't make it in the National Football League. So, it's a fun time. It is heading into football season. And while training camp, preseason football may not be, it's not like watching week 1 when the Texans play the Colts, but it is fun because some of these guys you won't get a chance to see again. They won't be here, but you'll get a look at some of the younger players. So one of the guys that I expect that we'll get a chance to see is John Mechie III. We know how much John Mechie has been through, right? He was injured when he came in from college, a lot of expectations about what he could do and what he still can do. Then, of course, he had leukemia. He recovered from that. So last year he was recovered, but it's then your body really getting back to being whatever your body's going to be. So he talked about that this week. He talked about how much better he's feeling just really overall. Here's John Mechie III.
Absolutely. You kind of figure it'll feel better. It's only a matter of time. Like, you go through so long with treatment for so long. And even though you're done, you're not really done. You have to give it some time for your body to flush it out and for you to be able to keep building and just kind of flush it out. So kind of expected it to be better. And yeah.
Has training camp gone the way that you expected training camp to go?
I didn't really have crazy expectations, honestly. My expectations aren't bigger than the day. And that's something I started practicing towards the end of last season, and it carried on through the off seasons. My expectations don't go farther than next week. My expectations are all today, to make sure I'm checking off everything on my process every day, right?
Listen, can you imagine just recovering from cancer anyway, from leukemia, is big, right? And then to get back to where you can compete, be in football shape, right? To get your body to a place where you can think about getting back onto the field and competing, that in itself is pretty phenomenal. And then what he said at the end about expectations, his expectations don't go beyond today. He has things that he needs to get done today. And so that's his focus. So it reminds me, it just makes me think about mindset. And, if you follow me, when I talk about sports, the X's and the O's, but how it really just kind of relates to everyday life. If you have a job, if you have a business, in your family, how you approach it, mindset is everything. And so what John Mechie was talking about there is obviously it's physical, but also it's mindset, because he had to first get his mind ready before he could get his body ready. So that's pretty exciting. Okay. Another guy, when we think about mindset, is Andre Johnson. Andre Johnson is going into the Hall of Fame, had an amazing career, more than 14,000 receiving yards, the first Houston Texan to be inducted in the Hall. Just really quiet, gentle giant kind of guy. So last night at the Houston Astros game, they honored him, and with a little bit of a here's what the Astros did last night. They honored Andre Johnson and his mother. The gold carpet, in honor of the gold jacket you get when you go to Canton and you're inducted in the Hall of Fame. This is before the game last night. Number 80 number on the field. And it was just really cool to see. Andre talked about how he had a good relationship with the owner, Tim Crane, his Jim and his wife and his son, giving flowers to Andre's mother, and then of course they have a special bat signed for Andre. that kind of respect and just that kind of, adoration for a guy who's done so much for the game was really, really cool to see. And so we got a chance to talk with Andre briefly afterwards. And I asked him about, it's getting close now. And how does he feel? I mean, the actual induction is less than a week away. It's actually on Saturday. He has prepared a speech. He's done that already. But here's Andre last night talking about how he feels getting close to the big day. Does it feel more real? I mean, I know it's getting really closer. How are you feeling a few days out?
I think the closer it gets, the more you realize it. I think I've realized it more in the past couple of days than I have since it's been announced. Even get a little anxious at times because, like I said before, I've watched it so many times. Guys get the knock or guys give their speeches, but I never envisioned myself doing it. So now I'm the guy up there doing it. So that's different for me because a lot of people know I don't like to speak. So to get up in front of all those people and do the speeches, it'll be different, but it'll be fun. I'm happy that my family, my friends, have a lot of people coming up to see it. So there's a lot of people with me on the journey, and they get to experience it.
One of the things Andre's always said since he got that knock and found out that he's going to the Hall of Fame, he said, I'm not going in just for me. There's a lot of people that are going in with me. And he talks about that because of the kind of support he's gotten from Houston fans and from the team, the organization, the owners. He feels like I'm doing this not just for me. Like I'm going to be the one up there in the gold jacket, but it's really, I'm bringing everybody with me. And I think he genuinely means that. If you know Andre, if you followed him over the years, like he said, he's kind of the quiet guy, doesn't like to talk a whole lot. He will. I mean, he's very available. It's just not really his thing. He's really quiet and he always spoke with his actions. And so now he's going to make the speech on Saturday. Former Texans head coach Gary Kubiak, who coached Andre for most of his career, is going to present him. That's who he selected to present him. So it's going to be a big weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. And that's after the Texans play their game on Thursday night. One of the questions we asked DeMeco Ryans yesterday was, how good was Andre? Because he played with Andre Johnson. And so just how good was he? And this is what he said.
With Andre, for me being a rookie coming in and watching Andre work, I've never seen anyone work like him on any team I've been on. It's just the guy showed up every single day. He was the hardest worker. He was our best player. When your best player is your hardest worker, right, what example is that setting for the younger guys, right? And it was a great example for me, being a young player and watching the way he worked, watching the way he went about his business. I always tell a story like me practicing playing with Andre for 6 years. I can count on one hand how many times I've seen him drop a football. Right? He was a very, very special player. And, I go back. I always remember the Washington games, like overtime game, fourth quarter. Everybody knows the ball is going to Andre. They know it. We know it. They got like 3 guys on him. He still goes up and make the play for us to win the game. Just an outstanding player, the best I've seen.
Outstanding player, the best he's seen. That is that's pretty special, right? And so he's excited that he's going to get to be there when he's in the Hall of Fame, and that the entire team will get to be there and celebrate and support Andre Johnson. It's going to be quite a weekend. Now, one of the other things of news that came out of training camp this week is that on Monday, we got notification from the National Football League that Denico Autry, one of the guys acquired in the offseason to kind of shore up the defensive line, the interior of the defensive line, is going to have to miss the first 6 games of the regular season because he's been suspended for using PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs. That means he can practice now. He can, be on the field, but once the regular season starts, he cannot participate or play for the first 6 games. He's out for 6 games, and that's also he's out without pay. And he released a statement about something that he took that he, was prescribed by his doctor, and he didn't know it had anything in it that it shouldn't have had. But the NFL is it's pretty tough to crack when they say, when they pop you with testing positive for a substance, right? They're not very forgiving about that, I guess is the thing you would say. The rule is a rule. They feel like there's I'm not going to speak for the National Football League, but they're pretty firm about it. And it can be all sorts of substances that may be banned. It's not really, you think performance enhancing, oh, it's steroids. It's really anything that is on, they have a list and it says these are the things that should not be in your body. So, the tough hit for DeMeco Autry, he says he didn't know, and he's, doing his own work to kind of fight it or maybe combat it or maybe something with the doctor. But DeMeco and the Texans have to move forward. He apologized to the team and to the fans because he's projected to be a starter. And he undoubtedly will be when he gets back, but missing the first 6 games of the season is kind of tough. Here is head coach DeMeco Ryans talking about that after we got the news and we had a chance to talk with him yesterday.
Yeah, from our D-line group, I think all the guys done a great job of working well together. I think with our D-line, it's a different style of play than most guys have played in different schemes. So it takes some time getting used to, right, our style of play, what we're asking guys to do. And they're coming along, right? I see the group gelling together. They're working well on their stunts and their games. So it's really good to see, guys out creating that bond, working well together as a D-line group. When it comes to Autry, I think everybody knows he put out a statement. We stand behind Autry and his statement that he made. Unfortunate news to hear of the suspension. We were well aware of it, and we'll move forward. He's here. He can continue to work throughout training camp, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there in the season.
One of the things you hear DeMeco talk about a lot is bringing in when they bring in guys for whatever the position, that there's some flexibility, that you can do more than one thing. So while he was projected to be, obviously he's a defensive tackle to start inside, he is tremendously talented. They have brought in other guys that they have on the defensive line that perhaps can move inside, like Edwards, or, like he said, they'll figure it out. They've got a few weeks to figure it out. Who knows whether they bring in somebody else during camp or when cuts are made, but that's the news about DeMeco Autry. It was unfortunate, but it is one of the pieces of news out of training camp this week. A few other people I know that some of you have inboxed me about. Laramie Tunzel looks good, is fit, is still going through, going through rehab and that process. He's not back on the playing field yet, but he is getting work in. Joe Mixon is getting work in. So they don't talk a lot about injuries in training camp because it's not like mandated like it is during the regular season when they have to give reports. But these are some guys we haven't seen, but the team expects, not me, who am I, that they will be fine and will play and be ready for when the season starts. I sat down and I didn't sit down, but I did a couple of interviews. One with Davis Mills this week, and I'm going to let you hear part of it. I'll let you can find the longer version later. I'm going to be starting a newsletter blog where I will put some of the other stuff that I don't get in the show because we get so much content throughout the week with all of the things that I cover and have a chance people to talk to. So Davis Mills, of course, is a backup quarterback. That position is super important, right? The goal is that CJ Stroud, who is clearly the Texans' #1 quarterback, he will be the starter when the season opens. He is the starter. That you stand him up all year. He doesn't get hurt. That he goes through an entire year and there's no injuries. But what we also know is the National Football League, injuries are a part of the game. And so what happens if he goes down? So last year he did go down. Remember, he had the concussion after that Jets game. He missed 2 games. Case Keenum, which on the depth chart was like the 3rd string quarterback. started the game against the Titans. They won that game. It was a crucial game. Things just happened and fell into place. The defense was outstanding. But really, your backup quarterback, you know how they say you're as good as your backup, right? Like, and so this is Davis Mills. Is this his 4th season in the National Football League? He came in as a rookie. Year 2, he ended up being the starter. Year 3 was last year when CJ started, and this is year 4 for him. But it's also the first time he has been in the same offensive system for 2 years in a row. So I got a chance to talk with Davis Mills a little bit, and this is a part of the interview just about kind of his growth and where he is. And take a listen to Texans backup quarterback Davis Mills. You should expect to see him in the game tomorrow night.
That, but I mean, I think there's always still room for improvement, room to get better. You think of all the great quarterbacks that played across the league that are Hall of Famers now. Some of them had probably been in the same system their whole career. So having time to build that chemistry with the receivers, the timing, the preparation that goes into all of it, it's, I mean, a big advantage to stay within the same scheme and continue to learn kind of the graduate level of the different concepts we run.
Where do you think you have grown the most after having 3 years in the league? And then where do you think you need to take? What are some areas you want to continue to work on?
Yeah, I mean, I think the growth, I mean, there's a lot of different things that I think I've done better since when I got in the league. I think really the big thing is just going out there and having control of the offense. Kind of everything's really started to slow down, especially being in the same scheme. But I mean, if you think back on it, I think I only played 12 or 15 games in college. So compared to a lot of guys who were drafted and coming out of college who have played or started 30 plus games, I was behind in that regard. So getting those early reps under my belt my first and second year, I think I started close to 30 games those first 2 years. Has continued to add to the stockpile of bank reps that are in my mind of defenses and just different play recognition and what I'm going to get throughout playing time and what's happening on the field. But I think, I mean, areas of growth, I think I just got to keep developing, keep finding ways to get better, and then really trust my playmakers. Don't get hung up on one route. We talk about it in the quarterback room all the time. We have a lot of really smart guys in our room, and we can kind of get caught in what we know we're going to get from the defense pre-snap, and we almost anticipate a little too much, where if I just go back there and react and kind of let my mind turn off and just react to what the defense is showing, I think we can have a lot of fun.
So that is Davis Mills. And Marcia says, oh my God, if CJ goes down. Listen, we are not wishing any of that on CJ. I think your husband is among many people that are Houston Texans fans, have a lot of love for CJ Stroud and just what he was able to do in year 1 and how he carries himself, how he moves, how he leads, not just how he plays, all of the above. So the goal is that they protect him. There's no, anything can happen, but you just have to always be prepared. And so the backup quarterback position is really important. And I wanted to just talk to Davis Mills to see how he felt about where he is. One of the things he said in that clip is, and he reminded me, which, those of us that cover the team know, he only played about 12 or 15 games in college, whereas most players coming out of college to the National Football League, they've started for longer, they played more games. And so he's still young in football. And each year he's growing. Second year in the system, he says he feels a lot better because he actually knows the playbook. So Tony, you make a good point. Denico Autry, who played for the Titans previously, and is the player who is suspended for PEDs. They also had the other guy, Arden Key, another defensive lineman. He's an end who got suspended for PEDs. So yeah, we were talking about that at practice the other day. Like, is the league going to look into what's happening in Tennessee? Like, is that just a big coincidence? Different teams handle things differently. I talked to somebody from the Cowboys that said, we don't take anything unless it comes from the Cowboys. and somebody else who said, even if you're going to take a Tylenol, you go give it to the trainer for them to make sure like what's in it. And I say Tylenol as kind of an extreme example, but to make sure what's in it and that it's clean. So again, you're not casting any aspersions on Denico Autry, but it does, when you have two guys from the same team playing on the same team last year, both get popped, suspended for the PEDs, it does make you wonder what's happening with that organization. Who knows? We will see. But that was Davis Mills. Another guy that I wanted to talk to is Dameon Pierce. This is his third season in the NFL. His first year, he came in as a rookie. He had an amazing start as a rookie, a draft pick, third-round draft pick out of Florida, third or fourth round draft pick out of Florida. Had a great rookie season, got injured, didn't get to finish the season because he was a little banged up. And then toward the end, why take a chance on risking him for a team that was really going nowhere fast? Last year, he struggled in the system. He talked about it. He admittedly talked about his struggles last season with us, and then he got injured. I had a chance to also talk with the running back coach, Danny Barrett, and another feature that I'm doing about just the running back position overall. And he said last year, DP, that's what they call him, DP, Dameon was pressing a little bit. So we got a chance to talk with Dameon and about just, where he is now. I asked him what he learned about himself last year. And also one of the things that just from observing him, he looks quicker, he looks more definitive. Here is Dameon Pierce really talking about both of those things.
I learned that I can handle adversity. And that's always a good thing for an athlete, right? In the game we play, it's so uncertain, it's so unpredictable. This could literally be my last count. This could literally be my last snap, et cetera, et cetera. So just knowing that I can handle adversity and I can bounce back the way I did, it gave me a lot of confidence knowing that, hey man, if I can handle it, I can handle anything. And it kind of gave me, it was humbling. You know what I'm saying? It was very humbling. And it just made me go back to the drawing board, bro. And it just made me hungrier than ever. It made me, I was mad at first. I went through the whole grieving process. Mad, sad, happy, everything in between, you know what I'm saying? So going through that and handling that the right way, I think was the most important thing for me. And personally, I've grown emotionally, I've matured more, and I just got a new outlook, and I'm ready and fresh, and ready to prove myself again.
How do you approach the game now? Did you approach this off season any differently than you have before, and if so, how?
Completely differently. Usually I'm one of them guys, I'm from the country, I'm not a guy who needs the best trainer, I'm not a guy who needs the most fancy equipment. But I got bougie a little bit this off season, you know what I'm saying? I went and took care of my body, I went, I rehabbed, I did everything, mentally, I decompressed mentally, you know what I'm saying? I just vibed out, because some people like to go to Waikiki, I like to go to the woods, I like to be home by myself. That's my, that's my way to decompress, being with my two dogs, and we chilling, you know what I'm saying? But I just decompressed a lot mentally, put a lot of things to rest. Like my main thing coming into this year was I didn't want any carryover from last year. I didn't want any negativity from last year personally to carry over into this year. Because I knew this year was going to be a big jump for me mentally, physically, and on the field. So I just wanted to make sure that I was in tune, my body was in tune, my mind was in tune, I was in tune spiritually. And I just had to let everybody know around me, like, hey, I'm here if y'all ever need me, but just know this year is a little more personal for me. Like, I can't give you as much of me as I've been given. I can't, you know what I'm saying, give you as much of myself as I have in the past. You know what I'm saying? Like, this year is different for me, and I just got to be more selfish, and that's what I've been doing, and it's been paying off.
And so the last thing, tell me if I missed this, but it looks to me like you're much more definitive in that first step that you take. Is that stuff that you worked on?
Yeah, me and DB, that's something me and DB have been talking about my whole career. It's like just go. And I think what was holding me back was I can go, but if I don't know where I'm going, that's like telling me to drive a car and you ain't telling me nowhere to go. Like, I don't know this right turn coming up, I don't know this left turn coming up, you know what I'm saying? So like I got my mini map, as you can say metaphorically, I got my map in line, I got everything in line, so that allows me to be quicker, that allows me to be more definitive, that allows me to be more decisive and confident.
That is Dameon Pierce, just one of my favorite guys on the team, because that's just who he is, right? He's just real. And when he said he talked about him and DB. That's Danny Barrett, the running backs coach. And one of the things about him is in the offseason, he got his college degree. We talked about that. And I'll let you hear from him later about him getting that college degree and how at first he was like, it wasn't a big deal. But then when he thought about the people around him that saw that, would see it in his family, he realized the importance of it. Tony, it's funny that you mentioned Pep Hamilton. Pep is not coaching. He is working for the NFL Network as an analyst. He went there last season, but I got a chance to see Pep on Saturday. He was at practice. So he was at practice on Saturday, and I'm gonna get him on the show. Now he's doing kind of the training camp, going around different camps as a part of the NFL Network's preseason work they do. But he is going to join us on Chalk Talk. So I'll make sure that in advance, when I know he's coming on, that I will let you guys know. But yeah, no, he's not coaching. I asked him how he likes it. He said he enjoys it. He has more control of his own time. And so for him, that's really, really pretty cool. So it was good to see Pep Hamilton and that he's doing well. Always liked Pep. I thought it was just a tough time for him here. That was a tough season. And yeah, we'll just leave it at that. It was a tough season. And I don't think it was really indicative of the kind of coach he is, and you really only as good as the talent that you have. And I think people forgot that. And they acted as though Pep somehow forgot how to be a football coach. But that's another time. But no, he is not coaching. But it's so interesting, Tony, that you asked about that. Before we get out of here, I definitely want to talk about the Houston Astros a little bit. Trade deadline was yesterday. If you've been following the Houston Astros at all, they've had a lot of injury problems, a lot of injuries, especially to starting pitchers. I mean, Justin Verlander has been out for a while. Luis Garcia has not come back yet. Urquidy went out. Lance McCullers has been out for a couple of years. I mean, they have really had challenges in terms of with pitching. The back half of the pitching, they went out and got Josh Hader in the offseason to be the closer. And, it didn't start out so great. Then it was a little bit better. And so they had, the team started out slow. Like I was talking to a couple colleagues last night, and they were like, the Astros maybe should have thought about doing something with pitching earlier in the season, because when you get close to the trade deadline, you don't have as many options and the price goes up. But if you remember how the season started, I mean, if they had not had the best month, the best record in June for the whole league, they had an amazing June. I think they were 17-6. It turned things around for them. But the way it was going, I mean, do you go out and spend a lot of money on a pitcher when it doesn't even look like you can get to 500? I mean, it was early, and it's not like they'd given up on the season, but you've got to see where you're headed. So this team, of course, has not had the best homestand. Last night they played against the Pirates, and they lost that game 6-2. On Monday night, also against the Pirates, they lost that game 5-3. So game 3 is today, and hopefully they can get a win so that the Pirates don't sweep them. But I wanted to pull back up. So where they are in the standings, they are now one game behind Seattle in the American League West. Remember, they had taken control of the lead in the American League West, but they are 4-6 over their last 10 games. Not the greatest stretch for them, right? The Mariners are 5-5, which is why they're only one game behind them. But they feel like they can win the West, but they've got to be consistent, and they had to get some help with pitching. Here is Dana Brown really talking about the moves that they made and why. Dana Brown, the general manager of the Houston Astros.
Of course, when you add, you feel like it makes the road a little easier. I still think if we wouldn't have added, if JV comes back, and he's like the original Verlander we think he could be, and if Garcia comes back, we felt like we still would have had a good push for the postseason, and we were good. But this it increases our odds and our chances, and so we're excited about that.
Good morning, Bridget. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you appreciate the interviews. I like to play. I probably pay more interviews in my show. It's the TV in me, right? Because I think it helps for me, other than me just telling you what guys say, for you actually to hear from them and be able to determine. You see their body language and you hear it and you get to see it. So I'm glad you appreciate that. I'm laughing because Tony said, LMJ, Lance McCullers Jr. ain't never coming back. You know what? Yesterday someone asked Dana about Lance, that he said, they thought maybe he would come back sooner. Maybe they thought he'd come back in, early to mid-August. Now maybe it's September. And you could be right. He may never come back. I don't know. But I've maintained for years that Lance McCullers Jr., if he comes back, he should come out of the bullpen. I think he's a relief pitcher. Maybe the fact that, if you think about when he's had his best performances, right? Was it back in 2017 in the World Series run when, he's able, I think, and I'm not a doctor nor a trainer, but he's definitely more of a reliever. And maybe that's why the injuries happen, because he's doing more than he should. That's my very Kim Davis way of saying it. I just don't know if he gets back as a starter. I don't know if he gets back at all. He's such a good guy. You can't help but like him, and you'd like to see him get back. But I think it was Game 5 against the Boston Red Sox in the ALCS of 2022. I can look it up, but I think that's when he got hurt and the last time that he played. Tony says Jordan can hit at home. Can't hit at home. Hopefully the Astros have more road games remaining. You know what, Tony? We do not want to have the narrative that we had last year, right? Not only could, you said Jordan can't hit at home, that they just couldn't win at home. Like, they've got to be able to do that. When previously he was a beast at home, right? Remember that walk-off against the Mariners, the year that they won it in 20, I guess it was 22. I mean, he could really hit everywhere. And so that is, yeah. Thank you, Marcia. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. I always appreciate my the folk that tune in who I know aren't real big sports fans, but tune in because they think they might get a little something. And so I appreciate you for stopping in and tell your hubby I said hello. I'm gonna let you hear from one more thing. I'm gonna let you hear from Joe Espada, who talks about Kikuchi, who's one of the players that they got in the deal, the starting pitcher that they picked up. And they traded away Joey Loperfido, which fans were really like, oh my gosh, he's a prospect. And, I don't know. I mean, you like Joey Loperfido, but he had about a 41% strikeout with his number. That's not great. They traded away another guy who's about 26 years old. So if you say he's a prospect and he hadn't made it up yet, I don't know that they gave away as much as people think they did. But anyway, time will tell. But here is Joe Espada talking about the pitcher they got, Kikuchi, who has, like I mentioned, his numbers aren't great, but they feel like he can help. And here is Joe Espada talking about him.
Into the organization. You talked about wanting to get him in with your pitching guys, and you saw some adjustments that he can make. Is that like more pitch usage, or is that mechanics?
Yeah, more pitch usage. His mechanics have been pretty good and pretty consistent throughout the years. It's more how he can, we know that he throws hard, he punches people out. How can he get much quicker at bats and be more efficient so he can stay in games longer? So we have a couple of things that we're going to show him, and that's something that we've done here really good. For years, make adjustments and make good pitchers even better pitchers.
So here is it's Yusei Kikuchi. He's coming over from the Toronto Blue Jays in exchange for Jake Bloss, who was a right-handed pitcher, outfielder Joey Loperfido, and infielder Will Wagner. That is the prospect people talk about. Now, Kikuchi, who's 33, has pitched 5+ seasons in the majors for Seattle and Toronto. In 22 starts for the Blue Jays this season, he was 4-9 with a 4.75 ERA, 130 strikeouts, and 115 innings pitched. So, you know, there are some who say those aren't great numbers, but you're talking about him, coming in and being able to extend what you're able to do with your pitching staff and to give some guys a relief because you've had a lot of usage for Arrighetti, right? Who's a guy that you didn't even expect would be up this early, right? That there'd be a spot in the rotation for him, Spencer Arrighetti. So he's a lot of use out of him. Ronel Blanco, who's pitched well, but thrown a lot of innings early. So you've had to get some help to be able to extend it. You heard Dana Brown say earlier, maybe go to a 6-man rotation or give some guys a day off or start off, because you've got to be able to have some arms if you're talking about making a run when it gets to late in the season. So there is that. Here's Dana Brown talking about really what he sees as the future, what this Astros team is now. And the question was really asked about when Kyle Tucker gets back, who's still been out for a while with a calf injury. So we're told, okay, that when he gets back, the question was asked, do you think he'll be as productive as he was before he went out? Here is Dana Brown on Kyle Tucker and just the Astros' future.
Yeah, I think once Tucker comes back and he gets back into baseball shape, I think he'll be just as effective as he was, when before the injury. And then you add into that mix, we feel like we got JB coming back. He's been throwing well with no discomfort, and we have Garcia, who's on the path to come back. He was up to 93 in his side, and so you add the starter and the reliever that we got in the last 2 days. You have a chance to go to a 6-man rotation, and you also have a chance to give these guys a breather and down the stretch through, where it's going to really get difficult in August. I think we're pretty much set up to face that battle. And so the schedule in August is going to be tough. We know it, and that's part of why we had to do what we had to do at the trade deadline.
So there you have it. That is General Manager Dana Brown. Tony, you make a great point. It is Billy Wagner's son, and people do have an emotional attachment. Listen, Astros fans they can be a beast, right? They really can. Wow. I mean, we've seen it. We saw how they were last season. They're very impatient. And, they got really used to being in the hunt for several years, which is not necessarily common. Here is, you mentioned Blas, same with Loperfido, right? He's flashing potential, but he's already 25. And I mentioned that whiff rate, 41%, I think is the number. His percentage, he strikes out 41% of the time. It's not a great number. They did bring up Pedro Leon from AAA yesterday. They're excited about him, and we'll see what he can do. And then Blas. Blas is one, you say he's probably the most impactful, only 23 with 6 years left of team control. And what that means is we talked about team control before you have to really, really pay him. So Blas was 0-1 in 3 starts for the Astros this season. He had a 6.94 ERA, 9 earned runs per 11.2 innings pitched. Loperfido hit 236 in 38 games for the Astros this season with 2 home runs and 16 RBI. And then Wagner hit 307 in 70 games at AAA. So that's what the Astros gave up for the 2 pitchers. For Kikuchi, and then they picked up a left-handed reliever from the Yankees on yesterday for some international bonus money. So listen, we will see. We are the end of July. There's all of August and all of September, and this is when it all counts, right? You've got to still be in the hunt for it to matter, but they've got to get back to putting some series together. They've got to win some series, and so they need to win just to get back on track. And then they are off tomorrow night, and then they welcome the Tampa Bay Rays in town this weekend for a series before I think they head on the road next week. So Tampa comes in for a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday series. And the Rays are 55-52. they are, where are they? I'd like to see where they are. So if we look right now at the wild card, it's early, but you're always looking at where you stand. So in the American League, it is the Yankees, the Twins, and Kansas City. And then those are 1, 2, and 3. And then Boston, Tampa, and Houston, 4, 5, and 6. So Houston is right there about, they're a half game back. They're tied with Tampa, but it depends on their head to head. So anyway, a lot of baseball left, but they've got to start putting some wins together again. So, okay. All right. So listen, that is pretty much going to do it for me for today. I am going to tell you more about the blog/newsletter, not sure what I'm calling it yet, that I'm going to be starting, where I will be adding some of the additional pieces that we don't get in on the show. And then of course, I'm airing things throughout the week on all of my socials. So Tony has a great question. Has the show time changed? It has during training camp, right? Because my show would run right smack dab during training camp. So I made it Wednesday today because they were in camp yesterday. So each week, there's about 5 weeks of camp. So each week I will give you guys a heads up on, depending on the camp schedule. But I'm trying to figure out, my show usually has been airing at 11 o'clock on Tuesdays for years. And I've had some people say, hey, listen, an early show would be greater, like a morning show. So, is 8 o'clock better? Is 7 a.m. better? I know people are getting ready for work. Or is in the evening better? The challenge with me for evenings is that I cover, during baseball season and Rockets basketball season, I cover games in the evening. So I would love to hear from you, especially you, Tony. You've been, and anybody who's listening, on when you would like to see a live show. You can always catch the replay, but the live shows are fun because I get a chance to interact with you. So I'm using this time during camp to just toy around with some different times so I can figure out when camp is over, when it's time for the regular season, to get back to my regularly scheduled show, a time that I'm doing each and every week. Now, throughout the year, sometimes things come up and I may change the show time, but for the most part, it has been consistently on Tuesday at 11 o'clock for years. We are going into year 12 of doing Chalk Talk in this format. So thank you guys. Some of you have been here from the beginning, and some of you are just finding out and just discovering it. So welcome. Please share it with your friends in your community, and be sure to also share the video and the replay. So listen, before I go, this is something I say on all my shows. If you are not registered to vote, get registered. I will never tell you who to vote for. I am always going to say you should vote. It is really important, but make sure you're registered. If you're not sure, just go online. You can go to vote.org, or you can go to Google, am I registered? So depending on where you live, you can find out if you're registered to vote. And then you have time to get registered, right? Here's another thing. You may say, well, I vote every 4 years. Maybe you only vote in the presidential elections. I think you should vote in every election. But in some states, if you don't vote for 2 or 3 elections in a row, they will drop you from the voter rolls. So make sure that you know that you're registered to vote so that you can vote when the time comes. Take some time and understand about the policies and the people so that you can make an informed decision when it's time to vote. You can vote your values, vote what's going to be best for you and your family and your community. So that's what I say. Vote your values, but just make sure you vote. And you can't vote if you're not registered. So do that. Also want to make sure that we give a shout out to a couple of people that have helped us with this show and support what we do. Our good friends over at I Love Jinka. Great it's a turmeric paste. It also comes in capsules. It's great for any inflammation in your body, right? So whether that's with aches and pains, whether it is with respiratory stuff, it's great to help your immune system. And if you're in Texas, you can get it at HEB, or you can go to ilovejinka.com and you can order it, and they ship anywhere in the country. So you can also go to the website and find out more information about it. If you're in HEB, this is where you can find it.
Here at HEB, in the Healthy Living Department of Probiotics, you can find Jinka 7 days a week.
Yeah. Okay, a lot of Jinka sales. Look at that.
Tony says, I want to abolish HOAs. LOL. I understand. Whoa, tell me. Well, you know what? I shouldn't say that. What I did was, Tony, I got on the board of my HOA. So I could try to have some input, right? Because they can be something. Our HOA is pretty good, though, especially now that we have a new board. Not just because I'm on it. It's the other people that are on it as well. But make sure that you're registered. Tony, what do you like for a time of day? I mean, do you like the morning time? I mean, I know people were used to 11, so people are like, okay, you're changing it. But I'm going to take this next few weeks to figure out what's the best time if I'm going to change it. And I always took Tuesdays because Tuesdays is the off day in the NFL. And I based it on that because that's, a huge part of the season, a huge part of the year. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you guys. 8 a.m. is fine. Okay. You like 8 a.m. I kind of feel like morning, although I said coffee, and today I'm actually having water because I didn't make coffee yet, but I will. So listen, Tony, it's always great to have you as a part of the show. Thank you for being here. I love your input, and continue to follow. I'll be watching the Texans game tomorrow night. So follow along for updates. I may do a little something at halftime live on maybe YouTube and Instagram. I'll let you know. But just follow along, and remember, guys, be safe out there. Remember, register to vote is super important, and do something kind for yourself and do something kind for somebody else. I'll see you next week. Follow my update so you'll know what time. I think next week we're going to be the team is out of town. They'll be training on the road next week. So I may be back on Tuesday. And but if we do Tuesday, I'm going to go with the 8 a.m. again just to see how that works. See you guys. Make it a great week. Peace.